Hello and welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Askar Sheraliyev. On the second day of the trial over Zhanizbek Temirov, the former head of Zhanaozen temporary detention facility, considered the only suspect in the death of Bazarbai Kinzhibayev, the court heard testimonies of police witnesses starting December 16. All of them were under Temirov's direct subordination. Previously, policemen testified that their orders were received from superiors, but no names were given. Yesterday's hearing also revealed several discrepancies in prior witness testimonies.
There is an area surrounded by an iron fence. They placed us there and one man pressed my eyes with his fingers. They made me wear a jacket and then beat me up. I tell you what I've been telling during the court hearings. Just recently in the court I told that everything they said was not true. They are lying. They also said there were 10 or 15 people in the hall, but in the cell for 10-15 people there were 25 of us at least. Doctors who attended the detainees at the temporary detention facility were questioned after policemen. It was revealed only a few people were treated initially, as doctors were not allowed to hospitalize everyone who needed a serious medical examination. Bazarbai Kinzhibayev, who later died, was one of them. Paramedic Jazira Kanashbayeva recognized the defendant who did prevented the hospitalization of detainees. On December 17, 2011, I was there personally examining Bazarbai Kinzhibayev and then rendered him first aid. He explained that his pain was caused by the riot policemen who beat him up. We were unable to take him to hospital as we were not allowed to do so.
During yesterday's hearing over Zhanaozen violence, witness Alexander Bazhenko revealed his prior testimony against Zhanat Muranbayev was obtained through torture and as such should be fully dismissed.
Простите меня, простите. И у вашего сына попрошу, и у ваших детей попрошу еще раз.
As promised earlier, witness Alexander Bazhenko returned to the trial to tell the truth and to make everything in his power to get Zhanat Muranbayev out of prison, even though previously he testified against the defendant. Bazhenko explained this during yesterday's hearing. On December 18, I was arrested while on my way to a store. The police beat me without mercy. Then they took me to the garage of the local DIA. I had to stand barefoot in water from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. There were hundreds of people there. They were all beaten and tortured. I was told that I had to testify against Zhanat. At that point, my liver and bladder were damaged because of beatings. I still feel pain when I go to bathroom. According to Alexander, not one law enforcement officer or prosecution official helped him. On the contrary, everyone took part in beatings. When he asked why innocent people were subjected to brutality, a policeman said he couldn't care less about the sufferings. Bazhenko was tortured for 3 days, sustaining a broken arm and a head injury in the process. Only now he is returning to normal after the stress. When I asked a police officer why they were torturing people like this, he said it was the president's order. I swear by the name of Allah, that's what he said. The 3 days in the detention center were real horror. They said if you do us a favor, it'll all be well. Taking this into account, the attorneys requested to disregard Bazhenko's earlier testimony. The judge commented that this issue will be reviewed in a separate hearing. Following his cross-examination, we appealed for withholding of his previous testimonies. According to Article 106 of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Kazakhstan, there was a breach of interrogation procedure. Allegedly, he underwent torture. In the afternoon, the defense invited Damesh Sargolova, a witness who withdrew her testimony she gave during the preliminary investigation. The prosecutor was granted the judge's permission to read the initial statement, but Sargolova said that she was not present at the square on that day of the riots. In Sargolova's answers read by the state prosecutor, the defendants are described as people led by Akhjanat Aminov, a man linked to some opposition forces. Meanwhile, businessmen who sustained property damage withdrew their compensation claims against the defendants during Thursday hearing.
Attorneys in the trial over Shetpedi's orders believe the prosecution is violating the law. Supposedly, all video evidence in the case should be dismissed since the investigation authorities failed to notify the defense about them.
During preliminary investigation, the prosecutors drew up a protocol relating to only one video which was shown to the defendants. However, 3 video recordings were shown during yesterday's trial. As per defense comments, the 2 new videos are of little relevance to the case and there is a fair chance they had been fabricated. Birali Seitmagambet noted that investigation authorities have no other video sources of evidence. The videos presented are well known, they've been on the web for a long time already. The defense requested for the cameraman to be brought to court for questioning. along with other video recordings. It is worth noting that the prosecutor did not authorize the use of any of the video recordings. It should be noted that none of these video recordings have received prosecution authorization. The protocols for them were drawn up later, and I believe this is against the law. We can't say that prosecutors broke the law, as we believe that preliminary investigation agency, the defense party, is at fault.
Representatives of the prosecution office warned the activists from Pavlodar branch of the oppositional party Alga against taking part in dissent rally on April 28th.
We are giving you a warning that you should not hold a peaceful rally, as your inquiry was declined by your local administration. According to the law, the activists of the party pending registration along with their supporters have appealed to the local administration asking to hold a peaceful assembly, but the request was declined. The prosecutor's office was keen to issue a warning about possible administrative punishment in case the activists will ignore the decision. Nevertheless, party members still show strong intention to join the April 28th dissent rally. Even despite the ban, we intend to show up for the scheduled rally, and we are not afraid of the fines. We will still do it.
Similar warnings were also issued to the activists of Alga's Semey branch. They have submitted an application for the rally back on April 17 and received an official rejection several days later.
May I ask you a question? Why don't prosecutors wait for people at restaurants and cafes and warn them not to accidentally break the law by drinking excessively?
We are not authorized to answer this question.
Why not? Aren't you a representative of the prosecutor's office?
You should file a written request and you'll receive the answer.
Anatoly Romanov, another Alga activist, was detained in Uralsk on Thursday while distributing leaflets. After policemen brought Romanov to the station, they opted not to draft a protocol since the confiscated leaflets contained only information about the recent assault on the local reporter Lukpan Akhmedyarov.
Can you comment on the reasons for detaining Anatoly Romanov? No comment. Get the camera away from me. I'll give comments later. When? Who is going to explain it to us? Aren't you in charge here?
On Thursday, Tamara Yeslyamova, the chief editor of Uralskaya Pravda, the newspaper which employed Lukpan Akhmedyarov, was visited by representatives of the prosecution office.
Prosecutor Talgat Idrisov attempted to hand the summon to Tamara Yeslyamova so that he could later admonish her against breaching the law. After the journalist refused to accept and sign the summon, the prosecutors visited Yeslyamova at the office. The so-called admonition is related to an authorized dissenters rally scheduled to take place on Saturday at 11 a.m. The prosecutors believe that people whom they try to hand notices are potential protest organizers, but journalists refused to accept and sign any documents. Prosecutor Idrisov drew up a protocol in the presence of witnesses and district police officer and then left. This is a clear violation. You are the law enforcement and an illegal action just took place. You drew up a protocol and there is a certain reaction to it. But there was no illegal action that preceded it. You are just talking about assumptions, nothing more. According to the newspaper Uralskaya Nedelya, the notorious prosecutor's official Talgat Idrisov was the one who signed the information letter where Lukpan Akhmedyarov, Askarshak Bumarov, Maksat Aysautov and other dissenters movement activists from Uralsk were referred to as destructive elements. However, later Uralsk prosecutor Zhazbayev refuted the contents of the letter.
Despite the rejection of city authorities to sanction the dissent rally on April 28th, Uralsk activists are still determined to join the countrywide protest action. Public figures Maksat Usatov, Iskak Hasbergenov, Murat Gubaydulin and Askar Shaigumarov say they can't remain indifferent after the events in Zhanaozen and the murder attempt of Lukpan Akhmedyarov.
Amongst others, the demands include bringing the officials who ordered to open fire at unarmed civilians in Zhanaozen to justice, stop the trial over the defendants accused of organizing mass riots, eliminate the corruption and reform the political system of the country from autocratic to democratic system.
The life of Lukman Akhmedyarov, a reporter with Uralskaya Nedelya newspaper who was brutally assaulted last week, sustaining 8 stab and 2 gunshot wounds, is no longer in danger. The journalist was even able to take part in an online conference right from the hospital bed, saying he will continue his journalistic and public activity. Later in the day, Akhmedyarov gave an interview to the video portal stan.kz.
Считаю ли я, что... Вернее, кого я считаю здесь в данном случае...
I don't really know the real motive and reasons for the assault, although there could be only one reason, and that's the understanding that the current political reality in Kazakhstan can no longer preserve existing issues, as stalling them will not lead to anything positive. No matter how much effort was made by Nursultan Nazarbayev to brainwash people for the last 20 years via state media Khabar and Kaspravda, I have a feeling that Kazakhstan citizens have learned to think critically. Here in Uralsk, the authorities and police showed that they cannot come up with anything reasonable in their struggle against me. I used the legal way to fight for my rights and freedoms as well as the rights of other citizens of Kazakhstan. I never violated any laws. On April 19th, late in the evening, journalists of the newspaper Uralskaya Nedelya Lukman Akhmedyarov was attacked by 2 unidentified assailants. The reporter was stabbed and shot from a pneumatic gun. After an urgent surgery, Akhmedyarov remained in critical condition for several days. His colleagues are confident this was not a threat but a murder attempt, while the assault is most likely connected to his professional and public activities. A criminal case was instigated over the incident. The staff of the newspaper opened a special account to collect the money for the treatment of the journalist.
Short video titled Nazarbayev Kel, translated as Nazarbayev Come or Join Us, appeared recently on YouTube. So far, it is not known who is behind this creative appeal to the president, but it looks like the head of state is also invited to take part in the rally on April 28th. On Thursday, Nursultan Nazarbayev gave an interview to a popular news channel, Russia 24.
Both questions and answers were carefully chosen, fully avoiding any mention of the trial over Zhanaozen riots and upcoming oppositional rally. The president, though, still gave political scientists something to think about, presenting his personal view on the Arab Spring and noting the involvement of external forces in the process. The first cause is the internal problems, the worsening of living conditions, poverty, unemployment and desperation. Such people can be easily manipulated because they are desperate, so they are likely to follow slogans and promises. The authorities didn't meet people's expectations, and of course, external forces and social networks have also affected the situation. Someone was interested in such development and seized the opportunity. The leader of the nation had also outlined some of the threats he is trying to eliminate in the country, including political manipulation over the internet. Not only Kazakhstan, but all countries take measures when external forces plan their ideas with the goal of influencing internal politics through the creation of protest groups. This is also a threat. God knows what and who is posting there, and it is pointless to look for these people. Therefore, it is important to foster the local internet content in order to respond to these information attacks the right way and explain the population what is good and what is bad. It is not productive to restrict the internet space.
The hearing on the lawsuit against Astana city administration and Mayor Imangaliy Tasmagambetov, scheduled for Thursday, was postponed due to the absence of defendants. Previously, public activists were denied the right to hold a peaceful rally on February 25th, explaining that the same date was reserved for the Myasagan show.
Balaev is responsible for events organized by Myasagan Theatre, and at today's court proceeding we would like to ask her why didn't she follow the order of the city mayor, why the theatre event was not organized the same day at that place. The registered file by the Myasagan Theatre causes as many questions. According to activists, the petition has no time of document reception stamps. This makes the document authenticity questionable. Though plaintiffs point out that local administration realizes that the claim is tenable and legal, therefore they are delaying the process. They do not expect the court to force the compensation for moral damages in the amount of $27,000. However, they believe that court proceedings in general seem to be in their favor. At the last hearing, representative of the local administration could not answer our numerous questions. He was not present at today's proceedings at all. This indicates the defendant's weak points in the trial.
Mukhtar Jakishev's attorneys Nurlan Beysikeyev and Palat Tipsayev were brought to liability for their refusal to take part in the trial. Jakishev sees this development as a glaring example of the prosecution of lawyers for their compliance with professional duties and loyalty to the interests of the defendant.
5 days. That's how much time the court needed to complete the review of one of the most complicated and volumetric episodes of Mukhtar Jakishev's case, namely on the transfer of rights for subsoil use. This is despite the fact that the procurement part of the case, being much simpler in nature, took several months of daily hearings. The ex-head of Kazatomprom believes the rapid pace of Judge Nabi Pazilov is explained by the participation of the newly appointed attorney Gulmira Shaldikova. Jakishev says that all her actions confirm the lack of professionalism and asks her to present a written report and text of her speeches during the hearings. Such a rapid review of this part of the case speaks of your role in it as just a puppet. I rejected your assistance because I didn't trust you, and as time shows, it was a reasonable thing to do, and now your involvement in this already dirty process is disgusting me.
Representative of the Kometa S printing house spent Thursday figuring out why the prosecution office suddenly had an interest in the closed facility, even though the financial police sanctioned the use of the enterprise's printing equipment just 3 weeks ago.
On Wednesday night, 10 men attempted to enter the premises of the printing house. They didn't explain the reasons for their visit, neither to the security guard nor to the executive, never providing a notice paper either. Later, Kozlova was asked to proceed to the police station. At the same time, on Thursday, the prosecutor's officials promptly left upon the scene camera, except for Court Marshal Asiya Kazhanova, who wanted to know if the printing house was in operation, who owned it, and where it is located. The owner of the premise is Vladimir Kozlov, the leader of the Alga party, currently pending registration. He was arrested 4 months ago on social hatred charges. To recap, Kometa S was the only printing house which agreed to print independent newspaper Respublika. In September 2009, the financial police seized the printing house equipment and the tax officer raided the company with frequent inspections, while the court always ruled in favor of Kometa S opponents. Yulia Kozlova believes that rising interest of law enforcement towards the printing house has to do with the recent print of Moya Respublika newspaper, which covered the events in Zhenozem. The equipment seized by financial police was to be used to print a special report on the rally and how it is going to happen. You can see that we are under enormous pressure here. The prosecutor's office was supposed to provide us with documents, but they never did. They simply sent a woman to sort it all out.
Why have law enforcement agencies stepped up their activity against the opponents of the authorities, and where could this lead to? Find out from the next report.
For the last 4 months, public activists, opposition members and independent media representatives feel heavily targeted by law enforcement agencies. 6 prominent public figures ended up in jail, dozens others were interrogated by the National Security Agency, while 2 newspapers were subjected to searches. Politician Jambulat Mamai suggests several possible reasons for such pressure, including tragic events in Zhenozem, where the authorities lost control over the situation. The preparation of possible successor for Nazarbayev might be another reason, says Mamai. Whoever the potential successor is, he might be weak, thinking that he won't be able to hold on to the power if there will be a strong opposition and media in Kazakhstan. Perhaps this is why he is launching a full-scale attack against the opposition. The accusation that opposition is linked to the prevented terrorist attacks in Almaty delivered another blow to the image and reputation of the authorities' opponents. This was backed with a number of leaked interrogation videos, including a recent confession of an opposition leader who says he's a drug addict. In the meantime, activists who expressed their desire to take part in the dissent rally were issued warnings by the prosecutor's office. This week, one of the oppositional parties lost its prominent member, astronaut Dr. Abalkirov. The series of events made public activist Aidar Sadikov analyze whether the authorities' strategy of provocation and threats is efficient. Indeed, there are significantly less people who join rallies in Almaty than, let's say, in 2005-2006. As sad as it is, the pressure and some other measures of influence, including negotiations, offers, etc., do really impact the situation. I guess it's natural because this affects even such prominent people as Aubakirov, who could live with dignity and without making favors to the authorities. So in this sense, perhaps we should refrain from condemning opposition activists. Retired colonel of the National Security Agency Arat Nurmambetov disapproves tactics employed by his ex-colleagues. He believes that while the authorities are busy fighting the opposition, internal and external enemies may take an advantage. Just take a look at terrorism reports starting from last year and until recently. This is just the beginning. They are obviously testing waters with this terrorism threat. I don't want to go too deep in things, but according to my analysis, this is just the beginning, and that's what they need to focus on instead of dispersing rallies attended by elderly. I believe the authorities should think carefully about it, as this situation will not last forever. The relationship between the authorities and opposition has been spotty at best. The last confrontation wave was provoked by severe suppression of mass riots in western Kazakhstan. Those who warned the authorities back then that ignoring the demands of the oilfield workers may lead to serious consequences are now charged with incitement of social hatred.
Following the recent speech of the President Astana, sports authorities are taking steps to make local facilities more accessible to the city residents.
Several coaches are carefully monitoring the swimmers. All of them have various types of disabilities. Some were born this way, others suffered traffic accidents. 15 people with limited mobility visited one of the fitness centers in the capital for the first time. Sary-Arka, one of the best cycle tracks in the world, opened its doors yesterday. The monthly fee is just over $130, which cover the use of gym, swimming pool and the sauna, open 6 days a week from morning till 11 p.m. There are no time limits whatsoever. Other fitness centers charge up to $700 for the same services. We keep our price low so that people could afford it. Gulnara Utibayeva, one of those invited, have been pleasantly surprised. Sary-Arka is fully equipped for people with disabilities. There are wheelchair ramps and fitness machines for every muscle group. However, it's unlikely Utibayeva will be returning here despite the gift membership. Today they invited us here, showed us around. Naturally, I like it here. However, who knows who will come here next time? Or rather, it's known nobody will. We don't have cars. Most of us in the rehabilitation center are wheelchair users. 2 weeks ago, in his speech during a meeting dedicated to Astana's development, Nursultan Nazarbayev asked city authorities to improve the accessibility of all sports facilities. We should host international tournaments, as we do have an indoor stadium and a cycling track. We have to use them, and the facilities must not stay empty. Sports events should be organized to put some life there. President's words indeed put things in motion. A few days following the meeting, the Alawai's palace was full of people. 19,000 USD spent daily on maintenance of this unique facility, but now, quite unexpectedly, school children are allowed inside and are treated as honored guests who are allowed to do anything they want. What you see here is not just a window dressing. This is not just an object built to remain a memorial to the past Asian Games. It's an operating facility used daily by people. According to the employees of both centers, the number of visitors is growing day to day. For instance, Sary-Arka can accommodate up to 500 visitors at present. However, no one would admit that the president was wrong, and these facilities are far from empty.
Senator Gani Kasimov wants to award pop band A-Studio with an order. In his appeal to the Culture Minister Darkhan Munbay, the MP says the band has been promoting Kazakhstan abroad for more than 25 years, and this achievement is not appreciated back at home at all.
Kasimov mentioned Russia as an example where popular TV personality Andrei Malakhov dedicated an entire episode of his show to the band, and on the occasion of the group's 20th anniversary in 2007, it was allowed to perform in the Kremlin Palace. The senator repeatedly mentioned the outstanding achievements and unique talent of A-Studio and finally suggested awarding the band members with no less than a state medal. Gani Kasimov's suggestion have raised a lot of smiles, although this was not the first time senator's controversial ideas causes such public reactions. Yet Speaker Kairat Mami supported his colleague's initiative and found his request quite appropriate. It is a 25-year anniversary. The band is famous worldwide. We have to award them either the Order of Friendship or the Order of Kurmet. They deserve it. They have been representing Kazakhstan for 30 years and yet they remain young.
This is all for now. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.